All right. So if you're trying to like get a grip on how the Indian financial sector did in FY24, you're in the right place because today we're going deep into the Economic Survey 2023-24 to like see what's going on and like get up to speed.
Yeah.
And this thing's pretty packed with insights.
It is.
And trust me, it's way more interesting than it sounds.
It really is. The survey's basically like a health check on the whole financial system in India.
Right.
And overall, it's actually surprisingly positive. They're talking like credit growth is booming. The stock market's robust.
Yeah.
And there are some really interesting initiatives that are aimed at like financial inclusion.
Okay, so let's start with like the basics.
Sure.
Monetary policy.
Okay.
So it sounds like the Reserve Bank of India has been keeping interest rates steady.
Right. They're trying to walk this tightrope of keeping inflation under control, but not like, killing economic growth.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balancing act.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with all the global uncertainty that we've seen.
Yeah.
But the survey suggests that they've actually managed it pretty well.
Okay, good. And also remember that thing with the 2,000 rupee banknotes being taken out of circulation?
Yes.
The survey kind of shed some light on that.
It does. It turns out that almost all of those banknotes went right back into the banking system.
Okay.
Which kind of tells us a couple of things.
Okay.
One, people were mostly holding on to them as like a store of value, not actually using them for transactions.
Oh.
And two, they actually seem to have confidence in the banking system.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So speaking of banks, the survey's basically like giving them a high five.
It is.
It seems like.
Credit growth has been strong.
Yeah.
With double-digit increases in sectors like agriculture and industry.
Wow.
And you remember that emergency credit line guarantee scheme?
The ECLGS.
Yes, the ECLGS.
The one with the 100% credit guarantee.
The one that helped all the small businesses get through the pandemic.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
Yeah.
The survey highlighted it as like a major success story, giving a lifeline to businesses that may not have gotten credit otherwise.
Yeah.
And also another win, gross non-performing assets are at a 12-year low.
So basically banks are lending more and they're managing risk better.
Right.
That's pretty good.
It is a pretty solid combination.
Yeah, but what does that actually mean for like the average person?
Well, lower NPAs mean a healthier financial system overall.
Okay.
It means that banks are way more stable and they can actually support economic growth better.
So is it like if banks have too many bad loans, then they just can't lend?
They're less likely to lend, which can totally stifle investment and job creation.
Oh, so that's why it matters.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, the report also mentioned something interesting about high net interest margins.
Yes.
What's the deal with that?
So usually a high net interest margin is seen as a good thing for banks.
Yeah, and they're making money.
They're making a profit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the survey says that if it gets too high, it can actually be bad for the financial stability.
Wait, how can a profitable bank be a bad thing?
Well, it has to do with like the whole balance of the financial system.
Okay.
If banks are making tons of profits from just lending, it might mean they're taking on too much risk or charging people way too much interest.
Right.
And this can make the whole system kind of shaky.
Right. So they're making all this money, but then the system is kind of unstable.
Right. It's about finding that balance of profitable banks, but not at the expense of like the stability of the whole thing.
Right. Okay. I gotcha. So let's talk about those bad loans from like way back.
Okay.
I know India has been trying to deal with that for a while.
Yeah, they have. And the survey shows that they've made some real progress.
Okay.
The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code has been surprisingly effective.
Really?
Recovering over 3 lakh crore for banks.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So like, is that basically a way to like restructure failing companies? It's a really good way to put it. Yeah. It gives them a framework for resolving insolvency quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
Which is super important for a healthy financial system.
Makes sense.
And then there's the National Asset Reconstruction Company Limited.
Right. The NRCO, the bad bank.
Exactly, the bad bank. So it's still early days.
Yeah.
But they've started acquiring stressed assets.
Okay.
Which frees up the banks to focus on lending to healthy businesses.
Right.
So it's all part of cleaning up the banking sector and making it more efficient.
Gotcha. This is all sounding pretty good so far.
It is.
What else is good?
Well, one area where India has made tons of progress is financial inclusion.
Okay.
The survey says that 77% of adults now have bank accounts.
That's huge.
It's a huge jump.
Wow.
But what's really interesting is the digital public infrastructure thing.
Yeah. What is that?
It sounds like India is using technology to totally change how people access financial services.
Okay, so like what kind of stuff are we talking about?
So think about things like Aadhaar,
Okay.
which is the biometric ID system,
Right.
and the Unified Payments Interface, UPI,
Yeah.
which has made digital payments super easy.
Yeah, like I've even heard that street vendors in India are using UPI.
Yeah. It's amazing how technology is bridging the gap.
Totally.
And bringing financial services to people that didn't have them before.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and the survey actually says that all this pushing for digital financial inclusion could boost economic growth by over 2%.
Really?
Yeah, it's a win-win.
That's awesome. Okay, let's talk about microfinance.
Okay.
So I know that these institutions are super important.
Yes.
For reaching people who might not qualify for a bank loan.
They are, and the survey really highlights how important they are.
Okay.
They gave out a massive 1.8 lakh crore in FY23.
Wow.
A lot of that went to rural areas.
Okay.
And get this, 98% of borrowers from MFIs are women.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So it sounds like microfinance is not only giving them access to money, it's also like empowering women.
Exactly.
And boosting those economies in those rural areas.
Yeah, it's giving them opportunities.
Yeah.
And letting them control their financial lives.
That's great.
And it's a great example of how financial inclusion can make a real difference.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so we covered a lot about like what's happening inside India.
We did.
But what about India's place on like the world stage when it comes to finance? The survey mentions that India is becoming like a magnet for foreign money.
It is.
So I'm kind of curious to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you should be curious because it's pretty interesting.
Okay.
So remember Gift City?
Yeah.
Well, it's not just attracting Indian companies, it's attracting global capital too.
Really?
And not just banking, we're talking like aircraft leasing.
Wait, aircraft leasing? Why is that happening in Gift City?
Well, it all comes down to India's aviation industry. Think about it. A growing middle class means more and more people are flying.
Okay.
And Indian airlines are buying tons of new aircraft.
Right.
But they mostly lease those planes. They don't buy them outright.
Oh, so instead of those leases happening in like Singapore or Dubai, they're moving them to Gift City?
Exactly. Gift City is really competitive.
Okay.
It has good regulations, tax incentives, and lower operating costs than those other financial hubs.
So India's basically saying, hey, we're open for business.
Yes.
We can compete on the world stage.
And it's not just about attracting foreign companies.
Okay.
The government's also encouraging Indian companies that were doing business overseas to bring it back to Gift City.
Oh, wow.
It's all part of this bigger plan to make India a global financial powerhouse.
Wow. Okay. I also saw that the report mentioned foreign universities.
Yeah.
Setting up shop in Gift City.
Yes.
That seemed a little random.
It might seem random, but it's actually strategic. The government wants Gift City to be an international higher education hub. So they're encouraging foreign universities to build campuses there.
Why is that important for Gift City?
Well, think about it. A good financial sector needs a lot of skilled professionals.
Okay.
So by bringing in these big foreign universities, you're creating a pipeline of talent right there.
Right there in Gift City.
Exactly. Right. It's about building a whole ecosystem.
Oh, so attract the businesses, create the people to work there, and then you have sustainable growth.
Exactly. It's a smart strategy.
Yeah, it's pretty clever.
And it's already working.
Really?
The survey mentions Deakin University from Australia already has a campus.
Oh, wow.
And the University of Wollongong is coming too.
That's awesome.
It shows that India is serious about being a leader in education and innovation.
This is all really fascinating. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about insurance and pensions.
All right.
I feel like those often get overshadowed by all this talk about banking.
They do.
And the stock market.
Yeah, you're right. They do. But they're just as important for a good financial system.
Right.
And the survey actually has some interesting stuff on those.
Okay.
For example, it predicts that India will be one of the fastest growing insurance markets.
That makes sense.
In the next decade.
Yeah, because you have a booming economy.
Yeah.
A young population, a rising middle class.
Right.
So there's a lot more need for insurance.
Yeah, and the government has this big goal.
Okay.
Insurance for all by 2047.
Insurance for all by 2047. Okay, that sounds good. But how are they going to do that?
Well, they're trying a lot of different things.
Right.
The survey highlights a few key initiatives.
Okay.
There's Bima Sugam, which is an online platform that makes it easier to buy and manage insurance.
Oh, so it's like a one-stop shop
Yeah, exactly.
for all your insurance needs.
Exactly.
That's cool. But what about people who aren't good with technology
That's a good point.
or don't have good internet access?
Yeah. The survey also mentions Bima Vahak, which focuses on women in rural areas.
Okay.
And then there's Bima Vistar,
Uh-huh.
which is about creating a safety net through Bima Sugam.
Wow. So they're really trying to make sure everyone has some kind of insurance.
They really are.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, what about pensions?
Well, the survey talks about this global trend
Okay.
of moving from defined benefit to defined contribution pension plans.
Okay.
Basically, what that means is individuals are more and more responsible for managing their own retirement savings.
Yeah, that's definitely happening here in the U.S. too.
It is. And that's why financial literacy is becoming so important.
Yeah, for sure.
The survey really emphasizes India needs to invest in financial education.
Yeah, especially as more people get access to these services.
Exactly. Because it's like giving someone a powerful tool
Yeah.
without the instructions.
Right. You could really hurt yourself.
Exactly.
So we've got this dynamic financial sector,
Yeah.
tons of innovation, a push for inclusivity,
Mm-hmm.
but the survey is saying, hey, we also need to teach people
We do.
how to use this stuff.
It's key.
So they're really thinking about it.
They are. It's a good sign.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so we've covered like a lot of what's happening in India.
Yeah.
But what about India's place in like the global, financial landscape? The survey mentioned something about India becoming like this magnet for foreign capital.
Yes.
So I'm curious, like, what does that actually mean?
Well, you're right to be curious because the survey paints a pretty interesting picture here.
Who?
So remember how we were talking about Gift City earlier?
Yeah.
It's not just attracting domestic players, it's drawing in global capital too.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just traditional banking, we're talking like aircraft leasing.
Wait, aircraft leasing?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty specialized. Why is that happening in Gift City?
It's all because of India's like booming aviation industry.
Okay.
Think about it. A growing middle class means more and more people are flying. Indian airlines are like placing huge orders for new aircraft.
Right.
But most of these planes are leased. They're not bought outright.
Right.
So instead of those leasing deals happening in places like Singapore or Dubai,
Yeah.
they're moving to Gift City.
Wow. So they're moving those deals to Gift City.
Exactly. Gift City offers this super competitive environment with favorable regulations,
Okay.
tax incentives,
Okay.
and lower operating costs than like those traditional hubs.
So India's basically saying, hey, we're open for business.
Yeah,
We can compete with you guys
exactly.
on the global stage.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about attracting those foreign companies.
Right.
The government's encouraging Indian companies that were doing this kind of business overseas
Oh, wow.
to bring it back home to Gift City.
So bring it back to India?
Yeah, it's all part of this big strategy to make India like a global financial powerhouse.
That's amazing. Now, here's something else I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
The survey talks about foreign universities setting up shop in Gift City. Yes.
That seems a little bit random.
It might seem a little random, but it's actually a really strategic move.
Okay.
The government's vision is for Gift City to become like an international higher education hub.
Okay.
They want to attract these foreign universities to set up campuses there.
So why is that so important for Gift City's success?
Well, think about it. A thriving financial sector needs a constant supply of like highly skilled professionals.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So if you bring in like these top tier foreign universities,
Right.
they're creating this pipeline of talent right
Wow.
within Gift City.
Right there in Gift City.
It's about building a whole ecosystem.
So you attract the businesses, create the talent pool to work there,
Yeah.
and then you have like the recipe for sustainable growth.
Yeah, exactly. It's really clever.
Yeah, it's a really smart strategy.
It is. And it's already showing results.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The survey says that Deakin University from Australia
Oh, yeah.
already has a campus there.
Wow.
And the University of Wollongong is going to be setting one up soon, too. That's awesome.
It's a clear signal that India is serious about becoming a leader in education and innovation.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about insurance and pensions.
All right?
I feel like those areas sometimes get overshadowed by all this talk about banking and the stock market.
You're right. They often do, but they're just as important for a well-rounded financial system.
Yeah, for sure.
The survey actually has some really interesting insights on these areas.
Okay.
For example, it predicts that India will be one of the fastest growing insurance markets in like the next decade.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
A booming economy,
Right.
young population, rising middle class.
Yeah.
People are going to need insurance.
Yeah, exactly. And the government actually has set this ambitious goal.
Okay, what's the goal?
Insurance for all by 2047.
Okay, insurance for all. That sounds great in theory, but how are they planning to actually do that?
Well, they're taking a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
The survey highlights a few key initiatives.
Okay.
There's Bima Sugam. It's an online platform that makes it super easy for people to like buy and manage insurance.
So it's like a one-stop shop for all your insurance needs.
Exactly.
That sounds convenient. But what about people who aren't super comfortable with technology?
It's a great point.
Or they live in places without good internet access?
Yeah, well, the survey also mentions Bima Vahak,
Okay.
which is a women-centric insurance distribution channel.
Okay.
It's aimed at reaching women in rural areas.
Right.
And then there's Bima Vistar, which is all about providing a social safety net through the Bima Sugam platform.
Wow. So they're really trying to make sure everyone has access to some type of insurance.
They really are.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, now what about pensions? What's the latest on that front?
Well, the survey points to this global trend,
Okay.
the shift from defined benefit to defined contribution pension plans.
Okay.
So, like, in simpler terms, this means that individuals are increasingly responsible for managing their own retirement savings.
Yeah. That's definitely a trend here in the U.S. too.
Yeah. It puts more pressure on people to be, like, financially savvy.
Right.
And plan for their future.
Yeah, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why financial literacy is, like, more crucial now than ever.
Totally.
The survey really emphasizes the need for India to invest in financial education.
Right. Especially as more people are getting access to all these different products and services.
Exactly. It's like giving someone this really powerful tool.
Right.
But without a user manual.
Yeah, they might not know how to use it.
Exactly.
Or worse, they could end up hurting themselves.
Exactly. So we've got this incredibly dynamic financial sector in India.
Yeah.
Lots of innovation, this big push for inclusivity.
Right.
But the survey is also saying, hey, we also need to teach people how to use this stuff.
It's really important.
It's key.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what are like your key takeaways from this whole section?
Well, for me, the biggest takeaway is like how dynamic and innovative the Indian financial sector is right now. It's embracing technology, it's pushing for inclusivity.
Totally.
And it's really starting to make its mark on the global stage.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. It is a really exciting time for India's financial sector.
Yeah.
But as with any like rapidly evolving landscape, there are probably some bumps in the road.
Of course there are always challenges.
Yeah. What does the survey say about like the potential headwinds that India needs to watch out for?
Well, one area that the survey highlights is that India needs a stronger and more efficient like debt recovery system. We talked about the IBC and like asset reconstruction companies,
Right.
but there's definitely room for improvement there.
So even with those measures in place, it's still a pain to get your money back.
Yeah, basically a more streamlined and predictable process would be good.
Right.
For everyone involved.
Yeah, it would encourage more lending and probably attract more investment too.
Exactly.
Okay, so what else kind of stood out to you as like a potential challenge?
Well, the survey also talks about this need for ongoing financial education.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that before, but it's important.
It is really important. As more and more people are getting access to these financial services,
Right.
it's super important that they understand like how to use them responsibly.
Right.
And make good financial decisions.
Yeah, it's like giving someone a chainsaw
Exactly.
and being like, good luck.
You could really hurt yourself.
Right.
And this is especially important when you think about like how fast digital financial services are growing.
Right.
We want to make sure everyone benefits.
Yeah, not just the people who already know what they're doing.
Exactly.
So we've got this incredibly dynamic financial sector in India.
Yes.
There's so much innovation going on and a push for financial inclusion.
Right.
But there are also these potential speed bumps along the way.
Yes.
So what does it all mean? What's like the big picture takeaway for our listeners?
I think the main message here is that India's financial sector is at like a crossroads.
Okay, a crossroads. I like that.
Yeah.
So what path should they choose?
Well, the survey says that the best way forward is to find a good balance between innovation and stability,
right,
and growth and inclusivity.
So not just growth for the sake of growth.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of technology, but making sure that the system is strong and works for everyone.
It's about sustainable and inclusive growth.
Exactly. And it seems like India has a pretty good plan
Okay.
to achieve these goals.
Good.
The survey lays out this vision of a financial sector that's not just about economic growth, it's about social good, too.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's about using finance to make a better future.
Exactly.
Not just for some people,
Everyone.
but for everyone.
And that's a message that goes way beyond India.
Yeah, I totally agree. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the economic survey 2023-24,
Yeah.
I'm left feeling pretty optimistic, but also, a little bit cautious. There's a lot to be excited about.
There is.
But they need to be smart about how they do it.
I agree. I have one last thought.
Okay, hit me with it.
This survey is all about, the present and the future.
Right.
But it makes me wonder about how India's past has shaped its financial system today.
That's interesting.
Yeah, what can we learn from their history?
Right.
Both the good and the bad.
Yeah.
To help guide them on this journey.
Yeah, that's a great question for our listeners to think about.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to explore that a little bit more.
So there you have it, folks. That's our deep dive into the Economic Survey 2023-24. It's clear that India's financial sector is on the move.
It is.
There are challenges ahead, for sure.
Yes.
But there's also a ton of opportunity.
There is.
So buckle up, because things are about to get interesting.
They are.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.